self-employed or an artist or work in a creative field, I'm having one of those very typical Monday mornings where I think from an external point of view, you would think it would be quite an exciting day, but actually none of the things I really want to do and I really want to put my energy in, I can't do. I could do, but I can't because I have a list a mile long of very boring, mundane, tedious, adult, business owner, admin things that I have to do. But I'm romanticizing my life and we are going to make this a very fun, enjoyable and somewhat productive Monday morning, though I don't love that word. But for me, lists are a top priority. It's how my brain functions best because then there's no I guess there's not an element of getting it wrong. The list just continues, but it feels very satisfying to cross things off. Top of the tasks is VAT stuff for my accountant. I'm sure this is, you're really thrilled by this right now. I'm also part of a couple of magazines at the minute and I need to send over artwork titles, artwork specifications. I have a print for a collector that we need to go to the post office and send. I have been working on a secret project for nearly 2 years now, and I'm really hoping that in maybe next week's video, if not the week after, I can finally share what that is for you. All I will say is that there are definitely themes of things throughout this video that I think are clues. And some of you probably, some of you have definitely asked me about this before. A lot of you have asked me about this before, and it's finally happening. So I have a lot of continuous work on that to do. And that has been like a joy, but also a frustration because I want to kind of, each week I want to share that big chunk of stuff that I'm doing and I can't really at the minute. So I know, world's smallest violin. And then some fun things to share with you. I found a triptych of paintings that I did when I was 17 or 18. And in the light of recently going down memory lane and reconnecting to painting and childhood sketchbooks, I thought I would share them with you. Update on the stretcher is I'm actually getting more storage back at the end of this month. And I think that's when we're going to have an opportunity to really change around the studio and getting it functioning for the things that I want to work on, like my ceramics, like my painting. So I haven't finished putting it together yet. We will do that together when the time is right, but it just made no sense to have this 180 by 160 massive stretcher unstretched, taking up room. So we haven't done that. Also, so I must refer to my notes because the list today is fairly long. I thought it would be really, I just think in light of some of the conversations we've had recently, I'm obsessed with books. Always have been, as you saw from my childhood sketchbooks, even making my own books, my own zines. And I thought it'd be really useful to show you a couple of, I guess, specific genre books and books that I always refer back to in my little mini library that I have here in the studio. So I think I should probably make a start on all of that. You know, arguably one of my biggest frustrations as a full-time artist, I think, is that transition of where you've turned your passion, your soul, your inner voice, your joy into a profession, into your full-time career. And obviously that's like, it's such an amazing feeling. It's such a joy to be able to do that thing that you've always loved. But the difficulty is on a day like today, where I have impetus, I have energy to make and create, and I can't. There's this real kind of frustration. And then on other days where I've cleared the diary and I've got all of the jobs done, and I have the opportunity to make the things I want to make and do the things I want to do, I don't necessarily feel creative. And I mean, that's a whole separate issue that I think every creative person goes through, is this real, you know, it's why I said I don't really love the word productivity earlier, is because creativity isn't linear, and I don't think creativity should be put on some like mass production button. We ourselves are human, and the humanity is what I've always thought makes art. But I'm rambling here, but I know what I'm trying to say is that it's really difficult not to be able to just create and flow as your body wants to create and flow, as your mind wants to create and flow. And I don't know, sometimes I wish that were a simpler process, and quite often it's not. Quite often I'm putting a lot of energy into other projects, other things which are so amazing, and I'm so grateful I get the opportunity to do them. But running a business is a lot of unpaid work. It's a lot of admin, it's a lot of putting yourself out there. I am so many different roles within my own company, and it means I have to be very versatile, and it does minimize the amount of time I get to do on the exact passion projects that I want to do and why I started making in the first place. So this year has been really about keying into that balance a little bit more, and really discovering what my practice might look like in the future. This secret passion project that I've been working on definitely is part of connecting to my inner child. It's literally something that if I told her we were doing this, she would be beyond thrilled. And I think so much of reconnecting to what your childhood self would love, would be proud of, has really helped guide me this year. Print is off to my collector, which is good news, but I just had a real like filmer, YouTuber in the wild moment. So obviously I've got my massive DSLR on a jack that attaches to my car, and as I was heading back out, this man stopped me and he's like, "Can I just ask you what you're doing?" He's like, are you taking photos whilst you're driving? I was like, "Oh no, I'm filming." He's like, "So what, that's a camera?" And I was like, yeah, so I'm just filming for YouTube. And he's like, "But like, what would you be filming?" And I was just like, "Well, I'm an artist, and I'm just like, you know, documenting what I get up to." And he's like, "Oh, weird. It's weird what people do, isn't it?" weird what they do in their own time? And I was like, I guess so. Oh, it's funny. I mean, you know, like in my last video, like people often, you know, stop to have conversations with me, but it's so funny when something that you do that feels like so normal is so unusual to somebody else. But I love that. I love the flavour of life. People in their different flows and rhythms. Just got myself a couple of snacks. We can't argue with Baby Bells. We can't argue with Baby Bells. So I need to head back to the studio. Okay, so these are the images that I need to cross-reference for the magazine. I think I'm going to be in it next month, I want to say, as well as the cover image, which I'll put on screen now, which is the poet's wife, which is going to be on the cover of the magazine. So we have Unravel, we have Just a Squeeze, we have Red Herring, and then we have How Does Your Garden Grow? The magazine for the publication, to index it, also wants the years they were created. So I'm just gonna cross-reference. I'm pretty sure that the poet's wife is 2024. I made that for Board Hill Conference, so I'm pretty sure on that one. Unravel is when I first got my new Hasselblad, so I think that is 2023. I believe Just a Squeeze is also 2024. I think Red Herring is back to 2023. And I think that How Does Your Garden Grow is 2024. Let me just cross-reference this with my index. 2023 Unravel, 2023 Red Herring, 2024 Poet's Wife, Just a Squeeze, How Does Your Garden Grow? Perfect. Did they need anything else while we're here? Could you send the titles and years of each of the work? Okay, and the cover picture. Okay, perfect. Okay, let me transfer this across. Let me know if you need any additional information. Fabulous. So I have just remembered that I have a contract to review and sign for an upcoming project. So I'm going to do that first. Then we're going to move on to my paintings that I discovered from when I was 17, 18 years old. And then I also have the books that I want to share with you. I think both elements are really important for things that are coming up, but also in relation to everything we've been discussing recently to do with childhood inspiration, where I get inspiration, threads throughout practice, consistency of practice, and it all ties together so well. But first, I need to review this contract. What is the date today? Okay, good. Yes, for those who are very astute, it is the next day. I just got so waylaid with all of the admin that I had left to do, which really wouldn't have been of any interest to document. And none of it's particularly difficult, it's just time consuming and ultimately quite dull. So I got all of that done yesterday afternoon. And today I wanted to pick back up with my paintings and my book recommendations. So the reason why I was really excited about discovering these paintings was, well, firstly, I hadn't totally forgotten about them, but I didn't realise I still had them. And I actually have a vivid memory of painting them on my parents' living room floor. Because as I said, I think I was 17, because I think it was my first year at sixth form college. And I just love seeing how, well, it's interesting. You know, when you go to a museum or an art gallery, or you look at another artist's work, I feel like artists lean in. You know, you look up close at the artwork because you want to see how it was constructed. You want to see the brush marks, you want to see the indentations, you want to see the layers, you want to see the materiality. And so I think so much time has passed since I painted the artworks that I was like, oh, how was this done? As if it wasn't me that did it, because I think so much time and distance has been put between the process and the maker that I can almost view them as not the maker. And also, it was just interesting having seen my sketchbooks, where I was at sketchbook-wise with actually then constructing finished artworks. And sadly, at that time, so much of my work was actually done on sheets. I think I mentioned that in the sketchbook video. And I don't sadly have the sheets. I mean, my parents did keep so much, so I'm very grateful for that. But sadly, the sheets don't exist. And that's where I was really starting to explore painting and water-based oil as a medium. So seeing these has just been like really refreshing and kind of has given me itchy fingers to get back into it. And I think thematically, as we discussed before, like that thread as an artist has kind of always been there within the narrative. So seeing that was super rewarding. So books, I've kind of broken these down into, I think, 4, vaguely 3 genres. Now, I am an absolute fiction, fantasy, sci-fi nerd. I love that type of book, but that is not what we are talking about today. If that could be of an interest, it's slightly, I guess, art adjacent. All of my hobbies that are actual hobbies, like my LARPing and cosplay and fantasy reading, kind of all sit together and they all feel very connected to my artwork in some way. But today we're discussing specifically books that I use within my practice. So we have the classic coffee table art book, which I love. A coffee table book has such a richness to it. To me, it also feels like an art object. Then we have poetry books. As you know, poetry is a massive part of my practice. I write poems that accompany all of my artworks, whether it be a public art installation or a portrait. A poem is always written in parallel or before or after and sits juxtaposition with the artwork. Then we have, I would say, kind of like art essay type book, something that is educational and discussing something like, for example, colour theory or the history of art or composition or women's viewpoints within society, something like that. And then finally, I like to call these like my fun reference books. So it might be on a specific theme or topic that I'm then using as research to weave into my artwork. So I think it does feel like 4 categories. I was wondering if these two were kind of similar, but actually I think they are quite specifically different. So This book I've mentioned before in a previous video, but I just have to give Annabelle Hirsch another shout out. A History of Women in 101 Objects. I absolutely adore this book because it's like a cornucopia of reference points for me. As you know, within my portraits, I use a lot of historical references compositionally, but what I like to do is weave in that classic symbolism, but kind of, I think, subvert it somehow, so I spin it on its head how that item might have been used or might have been perceived, and this book is absolutely perfect for that. It's also just a fascinating read anyway, but just to see how these objects were used and perceived and connected to the female narrative within society is fascinating. My next pick for my kind of like art reference book is Chromophobia by David Batchelor. I've had this since university. It is a brilliant book on colour theory. Colour has always been so important and referential within my work. So this has always been just like a super, I think, like informative, but also like, you know, you like to have your ideas like challenged, and I've always loved this book. Then contemporary poet, Rupi Kaur. I mean, you know, her work is just so strong and feminine and almost nostalgic in feeling to me. Now, I absolutely love my classics. Like, I am a classics, poetry and literature through and through, but I just wanted to reference another female contemporary artist and poet today. And then finally, I mean, I have a plethora of coffee table books, but I absolutely love this beefy Botticelli book. I mean, I absolutely love Botticelli's work, and if you know my portraits, you'll probably see the reference points that I use within it. But, oh God, just, I love, come on, everyone must love, well, no, maybe not everyone, but like, no, you've got to love the smell of a freshly cracked open book. It's just, it's like the smell of a bookshop or of a library. I mean, a library's slightly different. It has more of a foistiness to it, but a fresh book is amazing, and this one I would highly recommend. Obviously, coffee table books are more of an investment in terms of like they're more expensive, and also then you need somewhere to put them, but highly worth it to me. Today, what am I doing today? I actually have lots of different meetings. I'm excitingly working on a new public art project, which will be in London later this year. Can't share more than that at the minute, but I have a big project meeting about that. I also have another potential project meeting earlier this morning. And then I do still have a little bit more admin to do. I do sometimes like to get this done up front at the start of the week, so that I can really be creative and playful the rest of the week. And I do feel in a little bit of a limbo at the moment because I want to put so much in storage and change the studio up quite a bit. And I have a lot of work on my secret project, and I'm really hoping I can share more about that next week, and there's going to be a lot to share. But so, as ever, thank you so much for joining me in my slightly chaotic life as an artist, and I really hope I'll see you next week. Bye.